Hi, I'm Hari with USC's Young Scientists Program, and you caught me right in the middle of my latest experiment. Oh, looks like it's done. Would you look at that?
But Hari, all you did was bake some cookies.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of science, specifically chemical reactions that happen when you bake cookies. Stay tuned and we'll learn a little bit more about it, but meanwhile, I'm going to take a bite.
Wait, they're still super hot!
Today, we are going to be learning about physical and chemical properties of substances. But before we do that, we need to answer the question, what is chemistry? Chemistry is the study of atoms, which are super tiny particles that make up everything around us. These atoms come together to form molecules, like the water molecule, which is formed by 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, which gives it its name, H2O. All these atoms and molecules can go through a bunch of different changes, and we're going to be talking about physical changes first. Physical changes are changes that happen that don't change the identity of a substance. For example, if you crush a can, it's still a can. Or if you break glass, it's still glass. An important thing to mention is that when a substance changes states of matter, it's still considered a physical change. If you freeze water, it's still water, just in its solid form called ice. Similarly, mixing sugar in water may cause the sugar to dissolve, but the sugar is still inside the water and hasn't changed into anything else. On the other hand, chemical changes occur when the identity of a substance actually changes. Let's take a look at some examples, like burning wood. It starts out as wood, and when it burns, it turns into ash, which is a new substance. There are quite a few ways to tell if chemical changes are happening, and these are color change, smell produced, formation of a solid, formation of a gas, or change in temperature. It's important to keep these in mind when we get to today's activity. Let's look at some more examples. Iron rusting causes a color change, baking a cake changes its smell, and mixing vinegar and baking soda cause bubbles to form. All of these are examples of chemical changes. For our Scientist of the Week, we have Alice Ball. Alice Ball was an American chemist who did lots of research to fight a deadly disease called leprosy. At the time, anyone with the disease was just sent to an island to avoid getting anyone else sick. But in 1915, when she was 23 years old, Alice Ball was able to come up with a unique treatment for leprosy. Unfortunately, she passed away before she could publish her work, and it wasn't until the 1970s did people discover that she was the mastermind behind the treatment that saved tons of lives. If you want to follow along with the activity today, you can print out the worksheet that has this table on it. The link to the worksheet is included in the description. For this activity, I will introduce a series of mystery substances, and I'll add water to each of them to see what happens. Feel free to pause the video so you can fill out the worksheet as needed. The first substance is these little blue pearls. Let's see what happens when we add a little bit of water to it, if it's going to be a physical or chemical change. You can see that the pearls just absorbed the water, but the identity of the pearls or the water didn't change, so it's a physical change. Next up is substance number 2, which looks like a bunch of white crystals. Now when we add some water, it looks like some of those crystals are disappearing, or as us scientists like to say, dissolving. Earlier in the video, we learned that dissolving is a physical change, so substance number 2 undergoes a physical change. Substance 3 looks a lot like substance 2, but let's see what happens when we add some water. Again, it looks like it's dissolving, but there's something different that's actually happening. Let's take a closer look. Now when we mix this substance, you'll see that it looks kind of jelly-like and sticky, but it still absorbed water, and that's a physical change. Our next substance has these small blue grains that look similar to our previous substances. However, when we add water, something interesting might happen. You'll notice that the water is barely mixing with the substance at all, and it almost looks as if the substance is still dry. That means no change at all even happened, not physical or not chemical. Now for this next substance, you'll see that it's a bunch of small pieces, and when we add water, some bubbles are going to start to form. If you remember from earlier, formation of a gas is a characteristic of a chemical change, so this one is a chemical change. Now our last substance looks to be slightly larger white crystals. Again, let's add some water, and it seems to me that the substance is dissolving just like some of the other ones. We know dissolving is a physical change. Pause the video now if you want to make any last-second guesses on what the powders are. Otherwise, here we go. The powders are water gel beads, or Orbeez, salt, diaper polymer, magic sand, Alka-Seltzer, and sugar. That concludes our activity. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.